Hello and welcome back to the channel. And we join the characters in the middle of day 6. It's midday and they have arrived at Jasper's residence, their patron. He's in the middle of a training session with some of his trainees. He can spare them some time. They've been asking him how they are able to appraise the worth and the properties of a potion and a magic sword. Now the characters aren't aware of exactly what these items are. We as solo role players do know the properties. We know it's a potion of longevity and we know it is a +2 magic sword. However, part of the actual fun of playing the game is putting yourself in the head of the player characters and how they have to problem solve issues and problems put before them. And in this instance, they have 2 items that the first one, the potion of longevity, they're quite wary of. They believe it's something to do with the aging process, with either reversal or reduction. They're not quite sure. They want verification of exactly what it is. The magic sword, they feel that they need to get their understanding of any magic weapon in this game world is that they feel that they need to understand more about its background and preferably understand its name, its runic name, to unlock the properties of the weapon to its full potential. So Jasper, as the patron, has kindly given some advice that there are 2 individuals that could help them in this regard. The first one being Kaela Silverheart, who is the resident magic user of Lord Seaward. He's come with as part of Lord Seaward's retinue. He is now I say he. I think we have to do a quick check of gender in this instance, which we should be doing for all our prominent NPCs. And let's just see whether Calyx is Calyx or I think Kaela. Should we go with Kaela? So a 10% chance that we have a Kaela Silverheart. So we have a Kaela Silverheart. The dice have spoken. We have a prominent female magic user. It's no longer Calyx. Calyx RIP. It's now Kaela. So I'll just go that one out. And that's live on camera, Kaela, where I've had to adjust because of a 10% probability. So we now have Kaela Silverheart, who is Seaward's trusted level whatever. We have to determine that enchantress who he has brought along as part of his host to provide magical services. And magical services are a very important thing in this society because against the forces, the minions of chaos and evil, they are the best weapon to fight against their nefarious powers that seem to seep and permeate this world. Also, side by side with the clerical divine powers, the word of Alaron and the Mace of Bane and the word of Ithrix, together united, they can defeat the evil out there. He has, oh yes, we may as well do it again for Torvin as well. Torvin Forgemaster, he has also suggested that he is the man He's the weaponsmith, again part of Siward's retinue. He can provide, perform a ceremony on the sword to define the name, origins, alignment, any other pertinent facts. Basically, almost like a data dump of this particular weapon, which will unlock all the properties for the characters, which is really what they're after. But again, let's see if it's a Torvin or a Torvina. Let's go with Torvina. In this case, it remains male. So we have a Torvin Forge Master, but Kaela Silverheart. So that's going to be. It shouldn't change anything really. It just means that we've got a prominent female in Siward's retinue. And remember, Jasper was in love. You know, his many videos ago. If we go back to some of Jasper's backstory, he was part of Siward's original party, and again, a member of Siward's original party was an elf enchantress who went off to Elfheim. They realized that the relationship would come to naught because of the disparity in ages. You know, Jasper would die and she wouldn't. So they broke apart, and she went back to Elfheim, and he was left kind of brokenhearted. And maybe that's part of the reasons why he's decided to approach life on a different arc, and maybe turn his back on some of the more underhand and rather dubious practices of his profession, and focus on useful skills for Lord Siward. Okay, now I think on Jasper's ability to provide us with further assistance, I think what we should do is some form of reaction test, because if we can perform a reaction test on his overall helpfulness. Now, I think Jasper probably starts from a point of view that he will help the characters, because if you think about the relationship of characters, the stratification of levels, and what you need to do to gain a level, there is an interdependency of characters and their classes across levels, because taking it from Jasper's point of view, it is in his interest to help these characters, because one of them is a thief, and if he helps Tristan in this instance, he will gain levels as a thief, but he will only gain levels through training. And Jasper could act as the trainer. He provides the training facilities. He's got rooms. He's got the time to dedicate to bringing apprentices up. And the good news for Jasper is that he'll have access to a large revenue stream, which we've already seen the formula for training. It's 1,500 a week per level, so he's going to get 1,500 gold pieces off somebody, some trainee thief, no matter what. And if these thieves have deviated from the norm, this only increases, because it takes more weeks to do the training and accomplish it. Now, you can perform training by yourself, but you double the time again, and you still spend as much money. So you really need these individuals placed around your campaign setting are integral to basically the entire dynamic of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. So I would say that there's an internal bias to having a good reaction for Jasper, and he will probably try his level best to aid us. And it's just really the degree of of help that we can determine on this table. So if we look at our favorite table, which immediately, you saw that, immediately turned to page 63 and encounter reactions, and we do a quick calculation of what all the modifiers that we would use. Now I do have the original, when we had an interaction with Jasper before, I do have the original piece of information that talks about, if I can remember, I'm sure I saw it in my notes. Was it before the brigands? Yes, here we go. When we had this amazing diagram of what the lost palace of Dunmorna, with all the crevasses and the volcano, and we had these, you remember Rubicus, and we had Rumix Indoor, who was the aged, the sage of Marchton, and also we rolled up Jasper Silent Walker's tendencies and personality, and we found out that he was trusting and diplomatic. So immediately we can do this. We can look at Jasper, and he has a tendency of trusting, which is +1 to 8, and he has a personality of diplomatic. So these are all quite good tendencies, which are conducive to a positive reaction, I would say. So that's why we're giving them positives. So if we take that away, now I originally, if you look at the notes, I originally had factored in a goodwill special factor, because remember we have a special factor in all our interactions, and I have a +10%. So there's an inherent +10%. And then Dagobert has his +5%. And there was be a racial. Oh, hold on. I think the goodwill is racial, because that is, they are both from, Jasper's from the kingdom, and Jasper is from the area of Marchton. So it is a +10% between those kind of polities. So that's where I'm getting that from. So it's probably easiest if we just list them out. So we would have a reaction from Dagobert of +5%. We have this racial thing, which in normal cases between an interracial thing is what you use, the +20%, the +15, the +10, but it will be a +10 because of the locality. So between someone that's from out with the area, but still within the kingdom, it's +10%. I would say that there is an inherent, and this is where I may be confusing, there's a goodwill +10%. There's no class differences, there's no alignment differences that we can tune into. So I would say that that's a +25 plus whatever we get here. So let's look at our, we got our D, I got my D8? What is that, a D? I don't seem to have my D8 here. Just bear with me a second. Yeah, I thought I had my D8 out. So okay, let's work out Jasper's trusting modifier. So he gets a +4%, and a diplomatic, he gets a +6. That's another 10. So that's +10%. Okay, so 10, 15, +20, +35. +35% to his reaction. So all we have to do now is the reaction roll. So let's have a look and see what we get on the table. Bearing in mind that our track record on this is less than favourable, we get a 34. Plus 35 is 69, isn't it? Yeah. 34, yeah. 69 is uncertain, but 55% prone towards positive. Can't get my false teeth in today. 55% chance. Right, no. That, I would say that's a resounding not positive. So it's new. It is uncertain in that instance. Uncertain. So, looking at our tome of tomes and our quick guide to reaction results, which is part of my guidelines that I have, and I will get round. I promise this. I will get round to typing out. You know, I've got these in a big Word document, all this type of stuff, what I call my guidelines, because I've not really tried to create any new rules. All I've tried to do is maybe just almost solify Advanced Dungeons and Dragons to make it a bit more solo friendly, so that it's easier for us to have mechanics that we can use and dip into it to explain things. And I think things like this table is quite useful for just giving you some pointers on what that table on page 63 is. So uncertain, we've got suspicious, worried, dubious, and guarded. Now, obviously, he's not going to be these sort of things. So I would just say that what it happens is maybe he's not going to be as cooperative as we hope to be. So let's look at it from the point of view of what the levels of cooperation would be. Now, if he was very friendly and very cooperative, he would probably, like last time, where he came and helped us deal with Rubicus, who was an awkward customer, if you remember, the Lawmaster, and when they had to get information about the Lost Palace of Dunmorna, and he really was a bit of a kind of Basil Fawlty type character. He was quite abrasive, he was eccentric, irascible type of person. The characters had a hard time dealing with him. The fact that Jasper was there, he managed to smooth the relationship. He had kind of oil the cogs. He was the kind of social lubricant in that occasion. So I would say, on a very positive reaction, he would personally come with us and help us in these interactions. However, on a more negative thing, probably what he is going to do is that he is going to, I would say in this instance, let's say he provides, he takes out a bit of parchment, and he says, actually, chaps, I don't really have the time just now to go up to the keep with you and introduce you to these individuals. But as a kind of stopgap, take this parchment that I will write down my recommendation and my instructions, and I will sign it and make my mark and put my stamp on it. Take that with you, and you'll get some form of escort that will take you to see whether you can have an audience with Kaela Silverheart. You know, quick retro on that one, and Torvin Forgemaster. Now, the only thing I do know in addition is that Kaela Silverheart, she has there is a potential that she has an apprentice, but I'm not sure, because of her level. Now we're going more into AD&D terms. Because she has a certain level, high level, she will have an apprentice that does all the running around and kind of organizing her research and making sure that she is looking at the right spell book today and that sort of thing. So you'll probably have to go through them first. With Torvin, he'll always be in his forge, doing what weaponsmiths do all the time, which is basically churning out weapons. And you know, Lord Seaward actually has, in fact, he's been very busy recently because he brought all these pikemen, and he's realizing that, you know, I'm not really fighting other kind of civilized opponents. This is very much hits and run kind of bandit country up here, I need better armed troops. So he's creating a lot of spears. He's cutting the pikes down. He's not actually physically changing the pikes. They're basically kind of mothballing them, but he's providing a lot of spears, maybe swords, that type of thing. Much closer kind of combat weapons, not an organized phalanx type structure, which would be very useful if we were fighting a big mass battle, but not a guerrilla warfare type combat that we're trying to do here. So take this parchment with my blessing, and I wish you luck with your liaisons. So the characters are pleased with Jasper's, and they have share some pleasantries with him. And he says you shouldn't really exaggerate your exploits a bit too much. You'll have a bit of a reputation that you have to try and maintain. My advice is to maybe keep your bragging rights down a notch or two. But yeah, have your moment in the sun. But word of experience, maybe drawing attention to yourself when there are maybe other jealous parties on the go isn't always the best thing, and it does attract maybe more dark forces sometimes. That's all I'm going to say about it. So they say, thank you very much, Jasper. That has been very good advice. We're so glad that you're our patron. We'll be back to speak to you shortly and give you a rundown on how we've got on. So he says, thank you very much. So they part. This has taken probably about another hour. We're probably up to about, I think it was 12 o'clock midday when we met Jasper. Let's say it's about 1 o'clock now, after all the pleasantries that we've had. And Jasper needs to get back to his trainees. So he says farewell. Okay. So what we do now is we take the very short walk from Jasper's apartment here up to the door of the keep. There are a couple of guards there. They say, who goes there? What business have you today? And Dagobert comes forward with the parchment. He says, we have come from Jasper Shadow Walker's residence just down the way. He has given us this parchment with instructions, and can you provide assistance? And the guard looks through it and says, yes, this all seems in order. I'll spare you one of my guards as an escort, and he will take you to the first person on this list, who is Kaela Silverheart. However, we know from experience that Kaela is a very busy magic user, and she uses her apprentice, who is called Perold, who is her apprentice, as her cipher to any meetings, and he will be the first person you have to meet and to ask for an appointment. And they say, okay, all right, we didn't really realize that, but let's see what we have to do to get a meeting with Kaela. So, as I say, they're escorted by a guard. We have to actually determine what Kaela's level is. So I've decided before, when I was having a think about just what magic user would be, I think it will be a level 5 as the minimum, plus 1d4. So let's determine Kaela's. So this will be the Kaela interaction that we'll call this now. We've moved on to with our guard, who is probably, we're not really going to roll up the guards. Like, he's a bit like, the Star Trek kind of security guard. It's just this kind of guy in a red uniform that always gets He usually gets killed actually on the thing. You know, he's not going to die in this thing, but he's kind of like a faceless individual that has got a bit more presence. He's got a slight amount of character. Usually a kind of good-looking kind of chap, and a bit muscular. He's sort of in a red shirt. This is the kind of AD&D equivalent. He's a kind of robust kind of guard, maybe a bit on the kind of he's not the sharpest pencil in the pack, put it that way. He's not exactly up on the intake too much, and he's a pleasant enough guy, but he just does the job, and we don't really need to maybe go into his character. Obviously, if he was showing us around giving us a guided tour of the keep, and be expected to interact with us, we'd obviously give him a bit more personality. But I think he's with the fact that we've actually talked so long about him, he's probably got a bit of a personality already. So we're going to use him to kind of take us up to Perold. But first of all, we're going to check what the level is of Kaela. So it's 5 plus 1d4. So that's a 3. So she's a level 8. So that's an impressive level 8 magic user. And also I thought I did have a pre-thought idea of what the chance of her having an apprentice is, and I thought I would load it to be 10% per level. So the fact that I've now determined her level, I would say there's an 80% chance that she definitely has an apprentice. And if she doesn't have an apprentice, she will have some form of servant that acts as. So when I say apprentice, that means a magic user that she is training, and she is, a bit like what any other level 1 magic user does. They train with their master, who provides them with their spell book. But in the meantime, for the master, they do all the kind of chores and dog's body type stuff. They organize their itinerary, the kind of their diary and that sort of stuff. And we know from, I'm sure it's in the Dungeon Master's Guide, there's a short section that talks you about some irascible magic user and his apprentice. And again, this is something that is very entertaining in the general genre, is the dynamic between the master and the apprentice. And particularly, it always seems to be like the magic user, the kind of cantankerous, he's quite often scatterbrained kind of master magic user, brilliant, but just no organizational ability whatsoever. And the kind of, the despairing apprentice who is always running around after him, trying to organize his itinerary and kind of almost a bit apologetic for his master's rather undiplomatic outbursts about lesser beings, which seems to be just about everybody else on the planet. So we've got a chance of a good dynamic coming through in that too, which is nice to represent. However, I am deviating from the matter at hand, which is basically rolling a percentage and getting an 80 to get a magic user apprentice. So let's see what we get. We get, that's an 11. That is an 11. So that means we do have, and I've called him, 10% chance that we've got to do this, And I should really be, when I actually come into the detail, I should really be doing the race thing as well. So I will do that, but let's just do the gender thing first. So what do we get? We get 26. So he is a he. So she has an apprentice called Perold. Perold the Exhausted, probably, because he has to do a lot of running around. But he probably hasn't got a surname yet. He's just Perold. Perold, she's always going, Perold, where's this? And Perold, where's my flask of something? And I am these papers organized, Perold. You're a naughty apprentice. So Perold is the apprentice. So I would say that let's get back to our characters who are walking along with the guard. The guard, just called Guard A. And Guard A says, right, I'll take you up these stairs, and this is where the apartments of Kaela are. There is an anteroom that usually Perold is in, and he does the kind of paperwork there. So we go into the anteroom. There is a harassed-looking young man in robes under a pile of papers, and he says, "Yes. What can I do for you? I am a busy apprentice for my master. Why do you want to come and see us?" And Dagobert steps forward and he says, "I have this parchment from Jasper, Shadow Walker, asking for an audience with Kaela. We want to ascertain the properties of this," and Dagobert holds up this flask, this potion that we have liberated from some dungeon many miles away. And so we're left with a situation where we have to gauge a reaction. So, what is Perold going to do? Is he going to go, "Yeah, this sounds like a great idea"? And of course, you do know there's going to be an appraisal fee and blah blah, all this type of stuff. Or is he just going to say, "Nah, it's too much for me. I'm completely stressed out with all this work that I have to do. Why should I help a bunch of adventurers that all they do is spend their time down in dungeons all day, whereas I'm doing all the hard work, the heavy lifting, in this AD&D world, serving my master." So I think this could be worthy of quite an interesting interaction. So, like all good NPCs, we discern what Perold's personality is like. Now, he could be as nice as pie, or he could be quite an awkward little customer. Now, I suppose your appreciation of what potentially little, maybe the bureaucratic kind of analogy is in mind just now. You might have like a petty official type mentality, where it's like, the computer says no, or it's more than my job's worth, or that kind of thing. And I'm getting that kind of vibe from Perold. But let's see if we can, we're well off the mark and we're doing him a disservice, a bit like what we did with Seymour, which we were rather harsh on Seymour. He turned out to be quite he's a bit of he's a bit, I think he's quite aggressive, but he's turned out to be quite a solid kind of chap, and he's certainly a good guy to have around in the Green Dragon if you want a bit of help, assistance with maybe an awkward customer. However, let's find out what Perold's general tendencies are, and we use a D12 and a D6. So let's roll the two together and see what we get. So that is the maximum you can get, which is 24. Loquacious. Now, I think loquacious means, does that mean that you are really, you talk a lot? I think it does. I think you never ever shut up. Loquacious. Because loqua, does that mean talking in Latin? Okay, well, he is loquacious, and if it means that you talk a lot, that's what he is. But I will have to look up the actual dictionary definition of that, loquacious. But I'm almost certain it means that you're talkative. So he's a talkative kind of guy. That's his trait. And his personality, let's have a look at that. That's a D8 and a D8. So we roll our that's a D10. Here's a D8. D8. So he is, he's actually introverted. Maybe he must mumble away to himself. Maybe that's why he's very talkative, but to himself. He keeps everything inside. And he is a 7. Courteous. What excellent traits. So on the face of it, he looks as though he just talks all the time, and he could be a bit annoying. but maybe it's more an internal dialogue. And maybe he does talk a lot as well. And he's a very courteous type of individual. So I would say that these are positive 1 to 8s in R. So we're not going to use them. Remember Thudibert, we used them as a skill thing in his negotiation. And he had things like he was servile, which we viewed as customer service. And also he's well spoken, so he's very eloquent at explaining things and smoothing over in the negotiation. And he would make it sound as though he was giving us a bargain. And in many cases he wasn't. He was actually not selling us a pig in a poke, but giving us a bit of a hard time on our, making our expectations much higher than what the actual reality was. So I would say that these are positive things. We have the reaction bonus from Dagobert of +5. Let's find out what his background is. Now I've got the override that I had on the other NPCs where I had 1 to 3. It was used a D4, and on a 1 to 3 they were from the kingdom. So we were deciding there were no more locals that we were going to have. They were always going to be from outside now. If we met an NPC, an adventurer type. And then a 4, it would be a foreigner, which would be someone that's much further away, and we'd have to do the directional arrow to determine what the culture was. So, he's a 4. So, well, that's pretty exciting already. So he is foreign. So I've got to get my little table out that says, what did we, here we go, going straight to it. Tolerance, foreign lands, +0%. So we're getting no interaction, racial preference bonus at all for that. So that's +0%. And also, let's find out exactly how far away he is with the table that I used, which was, I think, was it 120? It was on the magic item. Yeah, it was the map one. And this is where we got the original. So it was either 10 to 40 miles distance, which we said was the kingdom, and then 50 to 500, which was. So he's going to be 50 to 500. So that's a D10 times 50, isn't it? So he's a D10 times 50 away. So he might not be quite as foreign as we think, because he might only be 50 odd miles, but it's more the direction. So that's 300 miles away. So he's 300 miles, and let's see what direction he is. If we use it, it's a D8, isn't it? Use a D8 for his direction. Oh, I rolled an 8. So that's north. That's the same direction that Lindris was, isn't it? So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Or is 8 right on the... No, 8's due north, isn't it? 7 would be northwest. 8 is due north. Okay. So he could be from our Nordic kingdoms, because we're going to have to look at our master map, which we haven't looked at for a while. So there's us in Marston, 15, and 300 miles, that's way up here, if it's due north. So yes, he is, and we've determined that through, well, I suppose we haven't really determined through any tables or anything, just by inference, that we're going to have a Nordic culture side by side with our elves, our Nordic type elves. We're going to have this Northman culture. So he is part of that culture. So that's where Perold is. Now, I would say that Perold has adopted a more, I was going to say an anglicized, basically, what would be the worst, a common name for the region. So he's come south, and maybe he originally had like a Viking name. So again, do I have any of my Viking names to hand? I did have a little list And it'd be interesting to find out what his original Viking name was, because I'm sure I took a note. I made a list of names. Now this is what Chivalry and Sorcery had, and it had all these names of things from Tolkien, and then all the different Celtic names, and it had Carolingian names, it had Nordic names, it had all, even Hunnic names, it had everything. And I've sampled some of these for this. So I would say, I don't know if I took any of the Nordic ones though. So let's maybe go for a Rohan. Yes. I was wondering, maybe I should really just try and do a Nordic one. I think something like, how about Austria? Austria was his original name. Austria. And he is a Northman. So he's come all the way from the Nordic realms south by some means, and he has become the apprentice of Kaela. Or maybe even Kaela in previous things has gone north for some reason, and they've put Perold or Osria forward as a candidate for her tutelage. We don't really know the backstory, but oh, what an interesting little NPC we've got there already. He's from a foreign land, 300 miles away, long way from home, and he's under a very powerful sorceress or enchantress, Kaela Silverheart. But the bottom line is it's not doing us very many favours on the reaction. So I would say, let's have a look at anything else that would be pertinent. Now, on alignment, can we be persuaded to check on his alignment? I think in this instance. Now, remember, magic users generally are more, I'm not going to say, not the word freewheeling, but they almost have a bit more latitude's the word, to maybe the alignment dimension, because you get the classic evil sorcerer and all that type of stuff. Maybe there are more kind of across the spectrum, and because they're magic users, there is a kind of almost an agreement across the cultures that they can accept more deviations from the alignment. So maybe you could get a chaotic neutral type magic user. Maybe lawful evil might be pushing it a bit, but maybe lawful neutral definitely, because that is a very strong religion. So let's just see what the dice say about alignment for, if we actually did it based on this table, what we would do. So we have a D10. So I'll get my D10 out. Here. We get a 1. Oh, so he's actually lawful good. So he's whiter than white. Good for Osria. So good, they named him twice. They called him Perold. And Perold sounds a bit subservient, but he is in that kind of master-servant relationship, muttering away to himself, but being very, very courteous about it, very pleasant, and that's maybe that part of his charm, that he's very nice and pleasant to the people that he needs to interact with. Okay. So alignment, lawful good's not going to do very much on the differences, because Dagobot's lawful neutral, and that's just one stage away, so that's a 0 impact. Anything else that we've got? We always have alignment, we have class. Class, I don't think it's going to be much of a difference, because they're probably both of the same social level. There's no real noble commoner split here. Anything else? Maybe the pertinent. Remember, we have pertinent factors too, and the fact that he's got this parchment that says we're really wanting an appointment with Kaela and it's undersigned by Jasper, that carries some weight. So I would say that is probably worth at least plus 10. And I think in this instance, let's give a plus 20 to that, because I think, yes, so the parchment and the fact that it's just been freshly written and dated today, he doesn't want to get on the wrong side of anybody else in this keep. So he is mindful of his own career prospects and the fact that Jasper is he could get him during the night if he didn't follow his instructions. And what's the point of rocking the boat? Why not just say, that's everything looks in order here. This parchment is all dated and signed. Let's go ahead. So, what do we got? Let's calculate our positives first. So the cautious plus 1 to 8, so that's 2. So we got a 2 there. And courteous, we got a 3, so it's plus 5. So that's 10 plus 30. So plus 30% to our reaction dice. So let's see what we get on page 63. We'll get plus 30 to this roll. And I'll just organize my dice again. What was it, this one? Yeah. So plus 30 to this roll. Oh dear. 9. So 39. 39 is 26 to 45, uncertain, but 55% prone towards negative. So let's see if he's negative. So he's maybe just being a bit awkward this morning. So 55% that he is negative. So he isn't negative. 99, he's actually, so he will be uncertain, but so he's going to be a bit suspicious. So maybe, in fact, let's just look at all the lists, because this might give us a clue into what he is thinking in his little wizard's brain about what the situation is. And also it gives me a chance to think what the reaction's going to be as well, if I take a bit of time about it. And again, I was saying this about the sort of role-playing aspect. Take your time. You don't have to come up with a snap decision. If you want to go away and have a cup of coffee or anything like that and think, I wonder what Pennyfold Perifold would have thought in this situation. He's had a bit of a negative reaction. Maybe not. Very almost neutral. So I've got these options: suspicious, wary, dubious, and guarded. Now I like wary because maybe he thinks, what are you really trying to do here? Maybe he's a bit suspicious of what their motivations are to go and see Kaela. And maybe he's a bit protective because with his limited wizard training, he can see that they have a glass vial that they have been showing him. They said, that was part of the agreement that Jasper states in the parchment. The characters, or the undernamed, are seeking an audience with Kaela to discuss a potion on their personage of this description, and they have shown him the potion. And with his very limited training, he can discern that this is a powerful, potentially dangerous potion. It could be very beneficial. He just has some kind of tingle, a sort of spider sense. So all I think the characters need to do is maybe just push him a bit and convince him that, this is under the authority of Jasper. He is, as far as they are aware, he is a trusted servant of Seaward, and the characters are merely agents. So I think that's what Dagobert will take the lead and actually state that case. And I think if we can actually, in our heads, kind of play that through, I would say that that was a reasonable argument to put forward and negotiate on a positive way with Perold. And the way we can do confirmation on that is to keep maybe the plus 30 for the overall thing, and also give it a kind of push that he was on the cusp, and let's put up another special circumstance that we are quite convincing in this negotiation, and we add in, say, another 10%. So we will have plus 40%, and we will re-roll and see if it is positive. He says, yes, I think I can arrange a meeting with Kaela. If it isn't, maybe all we'll do is just delay the meeting. So in principle, he will agree to the meeting, but he'll say, no, she's too busy today. You're going to have to come back tomorrow, or you're going to have to, well, maybe not tomorrow because that's Holy Day, and no one does anything on Holy Day. You might have to come back next week. It's that kind of thing. So let's, we're in this kind of interesting situation now that we need to kind of almost role play. So let's put that proposition towards Perold, stroke Osria, and see what he thinks. So 74 plus 40, that's, yes, we've, yeah. When you get a score like that, with all the modifiers, that's 114. So it does go off the chart, but this chart does go up quite high. And this is where some of the reactions, because we don't often get this type of reaction. And it's something I think it's worth celebrating when you get it, even though we have kind of pushed it that way. 96 or greater, enthusiastically friendly, immediate acceptance. So that says it. The Dungeon Master Guide says it, and also my little box, which has some interesting potential results of that type of reaction. Becomes ally, agrees to negotiation or deal, falls in love, smitten, friend for life. So I'm not saying that Perold falls in love with Dagobert, but he definitely warms to Dagobert's convincing manner. Maybe what Dagobert has gained from this past week is he has become the cleric he always wanted to be, and he has taken on the mantle of leader, and he has achieved success, and it shows through in his demeanor and his manner, and that's what has impressed Perold. So Perold says, yes, you're in luck. Kaela Silverheart, my mistress, has some free time at 3 o'clock this afternoon. If you wish to wait, you can. Maybe take some lunch or something, or you can come back. So the party think, okay. Well, we actually have another appointment that we want to have with the Forge Master, Torvin. And he says, oh yes, I know Torvin. He's a big guy, which, surprise, surprise. He works in his forge in the central gallery down the corridor, and take a right. Maybe you could see him in the interim and then come back at 3 o'clock. And I think, well, that's a great idea. So our interactions may be taking 30 minutes. So say it's 1:30 now. We think, well, we could maybe go down and see Torvin Forge Master in the interim, or maybe we just go, we take it a bit easier. We have some lunch. The only thing is, our interaction with Kaela might take some time. So will we have time to see Torvin afterwards? It might be better taking one thing at a time. And maybe what they say to Perold is that we've had, they had such a successful interaction with him. Maybe they could push it a bit and say, actually, if we just wait half an hour, is there any way we could maybe see her? And Perold says, okay. And he is courteous, and he wants to try his level best to maybe please. They indulge him in his loquacious banter. They like to talking about anything. Um, and he says, okay, I could maybe have a quick word with my mistress and say, there are some important visitors here to see you. Um, the only thing I'm worried about is that she can sometimes be a bit cantankerous early in the afternoon if she hasn't had her nap. Um, uh, but it's these magic users, it's the raise eyebrows type thing, of the eighth level. They're kind of funny lot. But I will go and ask. So he says, just wait here, and I'll go and see. So he comes back in 5 minutes. He says, right, okay, you're in luck. Kaela is free just now, or and say about 20 minutes. Um, if you just wait here, I can take you through and give you an audience with her soon. So the characters do that, and they think, "Whew, that was quite a morning." And I think what we can do with our characters and maybe just reflect on where we've got to now. And I know it doesn't seem like we've actually achieved very much, but we have got through. We've had our interaction with Jasper. We've been able to determine exactly who the individuals are we're going for. We've actually established a relationship with Perold. So maybe there's an ally there, because one of the options on my little box on my reaction kind of interpretations was become ally. So I think Perold's taken a bit of a shine to us, particularly the fact that maybe he is interested in authority. He's lawful good. He wants to maybe ingratiate himself with the locals because he is a foreigner. And he thinks, well, this is the way to get on. If I help, help the people coming up, because they'll be, when you're coming down, they'll be there to help you. So he is maybe of that type of view. So that could be a result, an unforeseen result. And it's also been quite entertaining to find out where he's from. Perold might have quite an interesting backstory. Also, I'm just thinking outside the box now. We were all gung ho for Adeline to have her as part of our party. Who's to say that we don't ask? We say to Perold, do you fancy the life of adventure? You must have seen a few adventurous types back in the Northlands. Perold, would you not fancy a quick stint down the dungeon? Or maybe he's just a bit too closed off from that now, and he wants to continue with his training and finish that, because when you think of it, the magic user has an implicit high age before they become adventurers. So he's probably in the middle of his studies just now. But it's just that kind of thoughts, really. He might be up for some form of adventuring. At least we've made a good impression on him, and we know that we have a good chance. He's maybe put in a good word with Kaela. So we don't know anything about Kaela at all, apart from she's a female. She's a level 8 magic user. She's part of Siward's retinue, and she is probably 9 times out of 10 going to be able to spot what this potion is straight off the bat. The question is, I have actually devised a very simple interaction mechanic that will determine what the appraisal fee is. So I'm planning to use that in the next encounter, but I'm seeing that I'm reaching the golden hour, and I think what I'll do is keep that one for the start of the next session, where we will have our appointment with Kaela, and go through all the details with her and see whether we can extract what the potion is. And then following on from that, if we have time, which we probably will, because it's only 1:30 and it's probably going to be 2 that when we see Kaela, to go see Torvin Forgemaster. Now remember, hours, he probably works till many, late in the evening. We could stay around in the castle. The guard might actually say, you really need to be off the premises by either 6 o'clock or something. We close the gates and stuff. But we'll face that when we come to it. Okay, I think I've talked enough for today. It's been quite a talky session. Not too many die rolls, but a few interesting interactions. And yeah, I quite enjoyed that. The fact that we managed to draw out an interesting NPC as a side. And we look forward to 2 further interesting, and also, what does Kaela do in the appraisal, and what does Torvin, what's part of his ceremony, and how does he discern the properties of the sword? So that I think that's going to be quite an interesting thing in itself to find out. I've got a few ideas that I've already been mulling over, and it just needs the dice to really kind of execute that. Okay, well, just leaves me to say thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.